Hello, everybody. This is part two of a recording that we have previously made.
My bad.
Yeah, when just for everyone wondering why there were two separate recordings, Brit was on her phone and she was trying to switch to her laptop, and on the phone the buttons are right next to each other. So while she was trying to get rid of the echo, accidentally hit cancel. So we're just making the part two to our original recording. So jumping back into what we were talking about, Val Nichushkin in this game, this whole playoffs, right? He scored in every game, and you said, Britt, that he owes the team or owns the team. I couldn't remember what you were saying.
Just there's a tinge of like owing it to the team, owing it to him for. I mean, if we had him last year, especially playing like this against Seattle, I have no doubt we would have beat them. So I think that's something that's in the back of, if anything, his mind. But the other driving factor, I think, for him, and granted, he was wonderful in the Winnipeg series too, but I'm curious to see what we're going to see out of him because Dallas is the team that drafted him in the first round and gave up on him. So there's a lot of ties between these two teams. Did Duchesne get on the board did Duchesne even exist last night?
I want to say he did.
He sure didn't feel he wasn't impressive by any stretch of the imagination, but
yeah, he had an assist on the Ryan Suter goal.
Okay, but I mean, he wasn't a force like, which really we've kept him pretty tamed this year.
Yeah,
he's always been such a menace to this team, and beyond him, it would be nice if we could get Kiviranta back because he played so good in the Winnipeg series. Kiviranta comes from Dallas. He played really, really good in the Winnipeg series, but his best games, did he have a hat trick? Or was it 2 goals that in one of the first Dallas games of the year? 2 goals, right?
He
went
two.
out and just played like a maniac and then disappeared for half the year. But Kiviranta was apparently made for playoffs because he's also scored some serious goals against the Avs while playing for Dallas. We've got a couple. Who are other ties? I was thinking about it the other day, and there's a bunch of them. But obviously, the Nichushkin is the most important one.
Yeah,
and
Nichushkin, Kiviranta. Yep,
that doesn't go away. Like it's always going to be in his mind that they gave up on him. You know what I mean? And they obviously did something wrong with Nichushkin's development because he's one of the most valuable assets an NHL team can have, especially he looks healthy and happy and just, oh my God, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, and it's a good problem to have because you were talking about in part one of this recording about how people have their focus on Nathan MacKinnon, right? Because he's the guy. He's a Hart Trophy candidate. Hey, by the way,
and Ted Lindsay.
For Nate. What's that?
Ted Lindsay too, right?
And Ted Lindsay, or not Ted Lindsay. What is it?
Ted Lindsay. So that's the most outstanding season. And Hart is the most valuable player to their team.
Player. Yep.
But people are going to vote accordingly, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, so you said that all eyes go on to Nathan MacKinnon, and rightfully so, right? So a lot of people are kind of they might have one-on-one and the second guy kind of trailing and shadowing and stuff like that. Exactly. That leaves a mismatch somewhere, and it usually is picked up by either Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, but in most cases, at least this season, it was Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's also letting us see Middlestat shine. I mean, he did well with Nichushkin. I didn't like them at first, but he's done very well with Nuke. At this point, our top 6 is interchangeable line-wise entirely, it feels, because Lehkonen is also just a playoff master.
Yeah.
But Nuke is the driving force in so much of it. And just keep worrying about Mac and our other guys just go off, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I just kind of wanted to give some limelight to Val Nichushkin as well in this series, and obviously extends the goal streak. I think he is one more goal in the game away from tying a franchise record with both, I want to say it was Joe Sakic and Michel Goulet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, didn't he tie Michel Goulet in the last?
Or maybe that's what it was, but he's one away from tying the record too, from breaking it.
a goal in every game from the opening game, right? Is it
Yeah.
from the opening? Yeah. So
It's consecutive goals, or maybe it is goals from the opening to start a playoff, something like that. But
or no, Nuke and Mac tied with Goulet for the points one because Lehkonen was also in that. I don't.
oh,
Can't
maybe
remember.
that's what it was.
But yeah, for goals, he's coming up on that one. Sucks that
Yeah.
Lecky didn't get a point in that last game because
I know, but he still played fantastic though.
oh my God.
I mean,
his
that's just kind of
his
happens.
intangibles that don't show up on the score sheet, you can't even put a value on that. You absolutely, and it's certainly not what he's getting paid. It's a lot more than that.
Oh yeah,
It's disgusting what we're paying him for the value that he brings. Holy Hannah,
it's
that
pretty great. But again, Nichushkin is on the verge of history, so naturally we have to note that. So again, we're thumbs up in a great place. So we're up now, Brit, 1-0 in the series, right? How big? And they put a percentile that say if you win game one of the series, you are 68% likely to win the series. So how big of a momentum burst is this for the Avalanche in this series, do you think?
It's big, but I think that the next game I don't want to say determines the series. I just think it solidifies the Avs winning or not, because I think that the next game we're going to see the most that we're going to see from Dallas, which we have to keep in mind, they just came back on the Knights. Can't count them out either, but I think the next game is where you put them to sleep for good or fight it out for 7 games. I think that if we don't win tomorrow's game, we would go to 7. I think if we do win tomorrow's game, we could potentially, I don't want to get really cocky and say sweep, but maybe 5. But it's hard to see them losing at home,
Yeah, so, I totally agree.
I think tomorrow's game, a lot of it hinges on that, because if you shut them down tomorrow, when they are probably going to give you their best, their angriest, their most embarrassed, that's really embarrassing to blow a 3-goal lead. Trust us, we know. And they need to come out and get some retribution for that. Also, I think it's really important with tomorrow's game to keep that momentum going and close it out quickly, because it's going to get progressively more nasty. And I worry about injuries. We're not necessarily a lucky team. So the faster we close it out, the less minutes on the ice for them to, Jamie Benn to come murder someone. I would like to see Josh Manson beat Jamie Benn up again. I wouldn't be mad about that.
That'd be okay. Okay
I think the momentum carrying through tomorrow will ride it right into the next series if we can take home a win tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be a lot harder of a game. I just hope Georgiev is here for it.
and as well as the rest of the team, right? And I think that's exactly what Jared Bednar is going to kind of preach to the team is, hey, we took one away from them when we weren't supposed to, I guess you could say, right?
Home advantage is
exactly right. And so with all the perks of having home ice advantage, like last change, all that kind of stuff, they're going to play this to the best of their ability, because they know if they go down 2-0 in the series, it's not like Vegas.
Especially to go to the best home team in the league.
Exactly, right? They know if they do not win game 2, it could potentially be over in 4, right?
Yep.
I'm not
for our win streak this year at home, the discussions around it, everybody knows that we don't lose at home. We just don't, which is funny because in the cup run, seemed like we never won at home. We always lost when we were away.
Well, let's see. We only lost on the cup run. We only lost 4 times, twice at home.
Was it? I don't know why. Maybe it was just throughout that year. I don't know.
It sure seemed like it. We lost, I know, the clinching ones we lost at home, which it was kind of a bummer, where it's like, why couldn't you just advance at home? But the very next game we ended up winning. But I think Dallas is going to come in.
The Oilers choke? Is it over?
Yeah, at the time of this recording, by the way, the Vancouver Canucks, speaking of comebacks, mounted a 3-goal comeback in the third period to beat the Edmonton Oilers, and the Canucks are up 1-0
with
in the
their
series.
third string goal.
With Archer Shelovs, their third string goalie, which I think is fun.
Are they going to win the cup? I still think that they're frauds. I don't know. But I did see that Draisaitl left during that period and didn't come back. So that's kind of scary. Yeah.
Interesting.
Draisaitl.
Whatever. But going back to our conversation, no, you're good. Again, splitting 1-1 at Dallas is remarkable, right? So you've already accomplished that at the bare minimum, right? But I think momentum-wise, if you, the Avalanche, are up 2-0 in the series, the cards fall heavily in your favor to wrap this up. Here's how I should phrase it. It gives you, the Avalanche, the opportunity to wrap it up quicker. Because now you have 2 more.
Ottinger doesn't play particularly well. Because we went pretty deep into that overtime. There was not that many shots in that game. Let me see.
Yeah. It was like mid-20s, low 20s.
They had to leave that game feeling terrible because really they only scored 1 goal. Like, I know that they had 3 goals, but like you know what I mean? Like they have to mentally process the fact that really they only put 1 goal in, and that's kind of scary because Otter let in 3, and they were all like otherworldly goals. I think the overtime goal was great, which I was kind of thinking about it, and like Ottinger like didn't look prepared really for him, and you got to kind of wonder, did he think that Heiskanen just like had that since it was him? Like, do you think he was a little more chill?
My thought was maybe he thought that Wood was going to try to shoot first instead of trying to then cut across and shoot.
Patience, man. His arms
were
like
patience was incredible.
Long. But yeah, it just felt like it was just.
And he did only just beat him.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of maybe, I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but if it were me, I would have thought, okay, well, Heiskanen's got, from maybe his depth or vantage point, maybe he thought he had that right side of him covered. So it's like, well, you're only blocking the shot that he's going to take. He didn't know that he was still a body behind him and could turn to the right and then net it there. So that's my guess as to what could happen. I really feel bad for him, but at the same for Ottinger.
That his like all-encompassing reputation kind of hinges on these playoffs because he's really been riding those good playoffs. Last year he was very good.
I wouldn't say so. And the only reason, I think the reason why is because a lot of fans around the league, not just in Dallas,
he's definitely
hanging their hat on that Game 7 2 years ago. That he himself played out of his mind.
How long
the
can
team
you ride
could
that?
not do anything.
Not that, I mean, there's a lot of people who ride, like coaches who ride one good team.
Oh yeah.
You can ride for a long time, but
I think it will wear out if next season doesn't produce anything substantial.
He was very up and down this season. He luckily found himself at the right time because
exactly.
At one point when people were ragging on Georgie, his save percentage was lower than Georgiev's.
Yep.
Like in the 80s.
So yeah, and like I said, I think for now they're still fine with him because he's not a bad goalie by any stretch.
No.
Multiple teams would pay an arm and a leg to get him.
Yeah.
But I think if people are resting their laurels on him, they need to resort their priorities and kind of look at the team as a whole, right? But either way, now, Brit, final question that I'll ask for you here. What do you see this series going to? And I know you have alluded to it a couple of times, but truthfully and honestly, how do you
Oh, you're frozen for me. I am like pretty much dead set on it's either going to be 5 or 7. It's going to be 5 if we win tomorrow or 7 if we lose tomorrow. And I think the Avs win either way. That comeback, you're not supposed to do that, which the 3-goal lead is now the new 2-goal lead. Like it's the most dangerous lead in the NHL, but the Avs do it far more often than any like complacent team, you know what I mean, would.
Yeah.
Especially if we can get a couple getting. I'm particularly not impressed with Duhaime so far. He's made a lot of bad decisions. It would be really nice to get Kiviranta back, boot him out. Could you imagine if we had Drouin out there and
Oh yeah,
LOC?
totally different.
LOC would do so good.
Oh man, we would have had 2 shorthanded goals.
Oh, I hate it. These last 2, he would have just shined like a diamond in the last 2
He
series.
would have 100%.
It seems realistic if we go to 7 that we would get Drouin back. I don't know that we would necessarily plug him in at the end of what's probably going to be brutal, mean games if we go to 7. But yeah, 5 or 7, I think that we ride the momentum, and I think that it could even be 4, but I'd say 5 or 7. And we're going to win. We just are.
Yeah. So I'm going to go just right in between both of your slots with the same exact reasoning. If the Avs win this game 2, which like I said, at the time of recording, it's in between days, but the time this is going to get released will be right before game time.
Yeah.
But if the Avalanche win this game 2, I think they could do it in 4. I think they could do the sweep. Just because of the home ice advantage that you'd be going to, and the fact that when the Avalanche play with a 2-0 lead, and that we've seen in the past, it's like sharks when they see or smell blood in the water, right? Like that's kind of how I think it would be.
Yeah. They got
however,
saved in the last series, and Vegas just came out of a brutal series with Vegas, so it's only going to benefit us as we go.
I agree. However, that being said, if the Stars do win this game 2, you head back to Colorado, and I think you do end up taking it in 6. I think, 1-1, you win the 2 at home.
I don't think it'll
try to end it in Dallas, but Dallas plays desperate. You end it in Colorado the next game.
It's not a series until you lose or it's not a danger till you lose 1 at home. And people need to not lose their minds if the Avs lose 1 game. Holy cow.
Exactly.
Settle down.
And that's why these things go to 7, friends.
Yeah, and that's what the USHL does best of 5. And my Muskies almost beat Fargo, which is this just super team.
Fargo?
Yeah. So they've had the best hit season in all history of the USHL.
And you stole a couple games, right?
Yeah, and that's what it just made me appreciate the 7, because 5 you can get some fluky stuff out of there. It's too little. So 7 feels, because I've wondered before, is it too many games? But no, it's perfect. That's how you get a fair 5 you can pull some flukes from. So yeah, that's why we play 7, is because sometimes it might take 4 to prove it. So
exactly. I'm totally on board. And like I said, that's the beauty of the NHL or hockey in general, at least, up in here in North America, is it's not just a one and done, It truly is the best team advances, because there were 7 games to prove who was the best, or best of 7 games.
I would like to not use those 7 games. I think it's crucial for us to wrap this up as soon as possible.
Yep.
Because assuming Edmonton wins, but you can't.
Hey.
Edmonton has essentially been given a free pass to the Western Conference Final. The Kings just laid over and died. And that's what's scary about the Rangers too. Most of the teams that we're going to meet after this round, a lot of them have gone completely unscathed. We have possibly the hardest route. Us in Dallas, it's not fair what us and Dallas are going to have to go through to get there, because we might find a very untouched Edmonton, Rangers really not having to do a whole lot. So it's just we need to finish everything up as fast as possible, because that's one less injury, one less nagging little annoying thing to carry through.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my thought on well, really all of them is you look at the 4 matchups that are remaining, right? I would agree with you that the Avalanche and Stars one is it's the most physically taxing, right? And I think that might be what you mean when you say the hardest. It's the most physically taxing.
Yeah.
Because every matchup is difficult in their own right. You look at the Vancouver and Edmonton series, and it's going to be whose goalie does better.
Right.
It's a question of goalies. The firepower on both sides, it's both there. They're going to score plenty of goals. but it's whose goalie shows up.
Yeah.
That's what it hinges on, right? But it's just the goalie. Everyone else is going to play just how they've been.
Yeah.
You look in the East, right? Boston and Florida. This game is who's going to have their teeth knocked out less, because
fortunately they're going to be
are not going to finish on very good terms.
Yeah.
Right? That
Man,
is going
I
to
don't
be
know if they're
a
going to make it
physical
to 7 games.
fighting game.
Yeah, everyone's going to it's the best for
134 penalty minutes.
One of those teams is going to leave there just bloodied and geez. Yeah.
Yep. And that's the thing, is with all that fighting and hard hitting and face washing, whatever it is that's going on, yes, it is physically taxing, but you're fighting, right? You're exhausting the other person or taking away their ability to play, period. Right? So it's just they're essentially killing each other and becoming the sacrifice to whoever comes out on top of the Carolina.
It was one of the things that helped us in the 2022 run, that the East, it swapped in the last 2 years, but when we won our cup, the East was the mega, all the West was
easy.
Too many rebuilding. Easier. A lot of easier paths. And then the East was just, they were all big, mean teams. All of them. Every single one of them. And then it just completely flip-flopped. Kind of weird. But now the West is, the route out of the West is a lot harder. But it's harder mostly, like the biggest aspect for most of the other teams, that they would have to go through us. I mean, we are the big wall for everyone to have to get over.
Yeah, I totally agree. But to talk about just that last matchup in the East, the New York Carolina game, that one, it's kind of all of them into one. So my thing there is like who plays the cleanest game, right? And when I say cleanest, penalty minutes cost a lot of teams, and these are two teams that can score at will basically on a power play, right? So it's who plays a cleaner game. But again,
the Oilers and the Rangers are like two teams that we might have to face that are power play, like
they're masters at it.
Yeah, so it's kind of,
they are masters at it.
Mikko and Duhaime and Woody, like they need to reel it in and get their heads on
exactly. Yep. So that's kind of where I agree with you, where it's physically taxing because the speed, the hustle, and again, like you saw Miles Wood completely out of breath in his post-game interview. Like that's what it's going to take. So but yeah, back to my kind of a divination, as it were. I would say if the Avalanche win game 2, they sweep the series. That's going to be my bold prediction.
I like that.
If they lose game 2, it goes to 6, and the Avs do clean it up and end it in Colorado. So that'll be my guess. But overall, I think this is it's in the making already, just based off the game 1. For a really good series.
The one game that felt like a scheduled loss as much as one could be, that they did it. And honestly, I don't even feel like it was such a comeback, like because they sucked. It was just bad luck, but they persevered. So I feel good about them.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is I feel like it's not the fact that the Stars choked away the lead. A lot of people say, well, look, they choked away a lead.
No, they just forced it out of them.
It's the Avalanche that took it from them.
Yeah, we do not. And I really feel like the Winnipeg series was like such a good journey for them to galvanize as a new team, new lines. We had a lot of big changes, but it just feels like it was almost the perfect path for them to just get beat down, come out on a negative, and then come together and build confidence and just leave that series like galvanized and feeling, you know what I mean? I feel like it was very good for them. They seem to be mentally better than they've been the whole year, or just more like cohesive, I guess. Yep,
100%. Okay, well, I think that's probably going to wrap it up for tonight, Britt. I can definitely see that you're tired. You probably want to go to bed. So we'll wrap this up. Again, this is part 2. If you want to go and watch part 1, please do so. But thanks a lot, everybody, for following along on both parts of the Clusterfuck podcast this week. We really do appreciate you guys' input and viewership. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Clusterfuck podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. If you like to follow us, you can follow us at the Clusterfuck podcast on Facebook and at Clusterfuck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said,
Hold on, let
let's
me
go
steal the
win.
last word. We didn't acknowledge. Sharks
What's
got
that?
Celebrini. Sharks got Celebrini.
Oh yeah, Sharks got the over number 1 pick. This was a good thing. This was a good thing.
That's all we'll say about it. But go Sharks, go!
There we go.
So glad it's the Blackhawks. Get them
This
out
may
of
not be Sharks territory, but sometimes we feel like it is.
Yep.
But either way, let's go win game 2. See if we can go up 2 games on the series, taking it back to Denver, trying to clean it all up. Should be a fun game. So have a great week, everybody. And as always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.